Hello everyone, and welcome to my The Bold Fans channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Brooke stood near the Forrester mansion's large glass windows, peering out at the gardens that previously represented serenity to her. They now seemed to merely reflect the fury within her. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the roses Ridge had planted for her years ago. She recalled the day he knelt in the ground with his sleeves pulled up, claiming he wasn't too much of a designer to get his hands filthy for her. That recollection hurts now. Everything hurt. The weight of the truth she had carried for months was too heavy on her chest to keep hidden any longer. She heard familiar footsteps, moving with the confidence of a man who has spent his entire life in this house. Ridge walked into the room, his big form filling the doorway, his eyes scanning her with the warmth he always possessed. But beneath it, skepticism remained. He could sense something. He always could. "Logan," he whispered quietly, using the nickname that had previously dissolved her entire barrier. "You have been distant. Do not tell me you are okay. I know you better than anyone. Speak to me." Her throat clenched. She wanted to turn away, but Ridge's voice kept her in place. She took a nervous breath and clasped her hands together, as if to stabilize them. "I can't keep pretending, Ridge," she said. "I lied to you and everyone else. And it's eating me alive." The room became still. Even the gentle ticking of the antique clock on the wall seems to hold its breath. Ridge's eyes narrowed, not in wrath but in worry. "What do you mean?" he inquired thoughtfully. "What a lie." Brooke turned, her eyes welling up with tears, the confession trembling on her lips. She had rehearsed this moment in her imagination numerous times, each time ending with her backing out, swallowing the words, and convinced herself that the truth would destroy everything. But suddenly the dam within her had shattered. "It's about that night," she explained, her voice breaking. "The night we celebrated, you assumed I fell asleep early and everything was okay. I was not fine. Ridge, something occurred. And I didn't tell you." Ridge took a step closer, his hand reflexively reaching for hers, but she backed away, fearful of what his touch would do to her already frail resolve. "I don't understand," he muttered. "Logan, what happened?" Tears flowed freely now. "I have betrayed you. Not in the way you imagine, but in a way that feels far worse. I allowed someone to get too close. And then I hid it because I didn't want to lose you. But every day since then I've been dying inside." Ridge's breath seized in his chest. "Are you saying you were with someone else?" Her voice crackled. "Yes." The single word boomed through the big chamber like a death sentence. Ridge staggered backward as if struck. His jaw clenched, and his eyes welled up with incredulity, pain, and anger. "Who?" The word was sharp, almost like a demand. Brooke shook her head and sobbed. "It does not matter who. What really matters is that I failed you. I failed us." Ridge looked away, ran a hand through his hair, and paced as if the floor beneath him was on fire. "It matters, Brooke. It matters who stood where I should have been, who touched what was mine, and who dared to think they could come between us. Tell me." Her sobs grew. "It was Deacon." The name pierced the air like a dagger. Ridge turned toward her, his face twisted with sorrow. "Deacon?" he exclaimed, his voice harsh. "What happens after everything? After all of my warnings, and after swearing you were done with him, you welcomed him back in?" Brooke dropped on the couch, her body shivering. "I did not intend for it to happen. I felt weak and lonely, and I convinced myself it was all a mistake." However, Ridge's actions were not innocuous. "He killed something sacred to us, and I can't take it anymore. I had to tell you." Ridge's eyes welled up with tears despite his anger. His voice sank hollow. "Do you realize what you did to me? To us? Logan, I've built my life around you. I forgive you for far more than most men would because I believed in us. I believed you when you said I was your only genuine love. And now you stand here telling me that you picked Deacon over me?" "No," she shouted out. "It was not a choice. This was a mistake. I made a terrible mistake that I deeply regret. Ridge, you are the love of my life. You've always been. But I'm broken, and I'm constantly breaking us. And I have no idea how to solve it." Ridge buried his face with his fists, his shoulders quivering. For the first time in years Brooke seen him cry. This wasn't the silent tears he'd sobbed when grief struck him. It was something deeper. This was anguish tearing him apart from the inside out. "You've taken everything from me," he lamented through tears. "Every promise, pledge, and dream we ever had is now in ashes. Do you know what it's like to be me now? To know that the woman I battled for and defended against the world has chosen to betray me with the man I loathe the most?" Brooke slid forward on her knees, reaching out to him, but Ridge drew back, unwilling to be touched. "Please," she begged. "Please do not shut me out. Hate me, shout at me, but don't leave. Ridge, I cannot lose you. Not like this." His angry, watery eyes met hers. "You've already lost me, Brooke. The moment you opened that door to Deacon, you closed the one to my heart." Her desperate tears filled the room. "I will do anything. I will seek forgiveness every day for the rest of my life. I will show you that you are the only man who has ever genuinely owned my heart. Don't let this be the end." Ridge turned to look out the window, where Brooke had been staring earlier. The stillness stretched excruciatingly, each second inflicting deeper scars on each of them. Finally, he murmured, "I don't think I'll be able to look at you without picturing him. Without feeling this knife in my chest." Brooke hid her face in her hands. "Then I destroyed us. I've destroyed the only thing that ever mattered." Her confession weighed heavily on them, flooding the room with excruciating anguish. Ridge, the man who had always been her safe haven, was now a stranger, standing just out of reach. And Brooke, the woman who had always battled for love at any cost, had finally paid a price too high to bear. Ridge left the room without saying anything else as night fell, his footsteps booming down the corridor like a funeral bell. Brooke stayed on the couch, clutching her chest and sobbing into the emptiness he left behind. She knew the truth had set her free, but it had also trapped her in a world without him. Brooke found this to be the most heartbreaking fact. The mansion, once full of laughter, promises, and hopes, now served as a cemetery for their love. Each corner murmured recollections of kisses, embraces, and promises that could no longer be kept. Brooke's heart crushed with each breath she drew. Ridge retreated inside his study, crying uncontrollably. He recalled the first time he kissed her, when he said that she was his destiny. He reflected on how many times he had forgiven her, assuring himself that their love was unshakable. But this treachery was different. This one had damaged a part of him that he could never heal. He pushed his fingers to his chest, feeling the void where his love for her formerly existed. It wasn't gone, love never fully vanished, but it was poisoned, corroded by reality. He realized that no matter how much he wanted to, he couldn't go back. And Brooke, alone in the darkening living room, muttered his name like a plea, knowing he'd never respond the same way again. Their once legendary love story had fallen under the weight of one too many truths. The scars would be with them for the rest of their lives. Brooke's heart raced as she prepared to speak. She had been carrying this secret for months, a burden that had gotten heavier with each passing day, threatening to crush her. She had attempted to bury it, to deny its existence, but the truth was persistent, clawing its way to the surface. It was no longer possible to avoid it. She had to tell Ridge, even if it meant destroying the fragile world they had created together. "Ridge," she said, just above a whisper, "there's something I need to tell you." He peered up, black eyes searching hers. There was a glimmer of hope in them, a desperate wish that whatever she was about to say wouldn't ruin everything. "What is it, Brooke?" he inquired, his tone low and cautious. "You have been distant for weeks." She swallowed hard, her throat dry despite the water in her fingers. "Just tell me what it is." The words were there, trapped in her chest, but they felt like shards of glass, piercing her as they struggled to get away. She placed the glass on the coffee table, her fingers brushing across the smooth mahogany surface, preparing herself for what was to come. She stammered, her gaze drawn to the floor. "I made a mistake, Ridge. A terrible mistake." His brow furrowed, and he leaned forward, his hands tightly gripped. "Is there a mistake? What kind of error?" Brooke took a deep breath and forced herself to meet his eyes. "I did not intend for it to happen. I swear I never intended to hurt you. But I was with someone else." The words lingered in the air like a guillotine, sharp and definitive. Ridge's face froze and his eyes widened as the message became clear. For a moment, he did not move or talk, as if his mind was processing the treachery. Then slowly his expression changed, revealing a tempest of emotions behind his eyes. Shock, disbelief, and something deeper, raw and wounded. With whom? He inquired, his voice scarcely audible, every word tinged with anguish. Brooke's lips quiver, and she squeezed them together to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. It was Bill, she revealed, her voice breaking. It was just one night, Ridge. One dumb and reckless night. I was bewildered and confused. I believed we were over and you had moved on with Taylor. I was wrong and I hate myself for it. Ridge's hands dropped to his sides, his fingers curled into fists. He stood quickly, turned away from her, and breathed in short, harsh bursts. Bill, he said again, the name tasting unpleasant on his tongue. I'm Bill Spencer. Of all people, Brooke. How could you? I don't know, she wailed, edging closer to him, her hands outstretched. I was hurting, Ridge. I was broken. I believed I had lost you forever. It wasn't because I loved or wanted him. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I've regretted it every second since. He swung around, his eyes filled with rage and misery. A moment of weakness? He exclaimed, his voice booming off the walls. Do you think that excuses it? Do you think that makes things okay? We've gone through so much, Brooke. There's so much. And you go do this? With him? Brooke's carefully maintained demeanor crumbled as tears ran down her face. I understand, but that doesn't make it okay. I know I have hurt you, and I will never forgive myself. But Ridge, I love you. I have always adored you. I was adrift without you, and I took a decision I can't reverse. I am telling you now because I cannot continue to lie to you. Ridge shook his shoulders and looked away, raking his hands over his hair. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the weight of her confession fell on them. He'd always known Brooke was flawed, that their relationship was a tapestry of faults and forgiveness. But this felt different. It wasn't simply a betrayal. It was a wound that cut deeper than any before, severing the trust they had worked so hard to restore. Why now? He inquired, his voice lower and almost defeated. Why are you telling me this now? Because I can't live with the guilt anymore, Brooke exclaimed, her voice rough with anguish. Every time I look at you, every time you smile at me, it feels like a knife in my heart. I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it isn't. I thought I could bury it, but now it's eating me alive. Ridge's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he shook his head and tightened his jaw. Do you understand what this does to me, Brooke? Do you have any ideas? I've given you everything, my love, my trust, and my life. And now you're telling me you tossed it away after one night with him? It wasn't like that, she protested, moving closer and grasping for him. It wasn't about throwing things away. Ridge, it was a mistake. Terrible, dumb mistake. I love you. I have always adored you. I beg you to forgive me. He trembled at her touch and took a step back, his face a mask of misery. Forgive you, he exclaimed, his voice breaking. How should I forgive this? How am I expected to look at you and not envision yourself with him? When I close my eyes, it is what I will see. You and Bill. After everything we've gone through, Brooke. Brooke's knees buckled and she collapsed onto the couch, her hands covering her face as she sobbed. I know, she whispered. I realize I've broken us. I know I ruined everything. But Ridge, I can't lose you. I cannot. Ridge stood paralyzed, torn between love and betrayal. He wanted to cuddle her and assure her everything would be fine, that they would find a way through this. But the picture of her with Bill, the man who had always been a shadow in their relationship, was a fresh and raw hurt. As the reality of her revelation dawned on him, he felt hot, unrelenting tears well up. I need time, he finally said, his voice scratchy. Brooke cried and pleaded. I can't do this right now. Ridge, please. Do not walk away. We can work through it. We always have, he said, shaking his head with absolute sadness. I'm not sure whether we can this time, Brooke. I don't know. He turned and proceeded toward the door, his steps heavy with the weight of their shared history. Brooke yelled after him, her voice urgent, but he would not stop. The door closed softly behind him, leaving her alone in the large, empty room. Outside, the rain was falling gently against the windows, mirroring Brooke's tears. She sat there, curled up into herself, the silence becoming a terrible companion. The love she had battled for, The life she had created with Ridge felt as if it was slipping through her fingers, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Days progressed into weeks and the distance between them increased. Ridge immersed himself into his work at Forrester Creations, hiding his pain in designs and textiles, but the pain remained, a persistent throbbing in his chest. He saw Brooke in every corner of the workplace, in every design they had collaborated on, and it was torment. He wanted to forgive her and return to the love they had shared, but the betrayal hung over him like a shadow. Brooke, for her part, was a ghost of herself. She went about her days mechanically, her heart burdened with grief. She attempted to reach out to Ridge to bridge the gap between them, but he was distant, his responses harsh and guarded. She knew she had only herself to blame, but it didn't make the anguish go away. It only deepened it. Brooke found herself at the beach one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, coloring the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ridge and she had experienced numerous moments of love and laughter there. The waves slammed on the coast, their beat firm and uncompromising, in sharp contrast to the anarchy in her heart. She stood at the water's edge, her toes sinking into the soft sand, letting the tears flow freely. "I'm so sorry, Ridge," she said softly to the wind, her voice swept away by the water. "I wish I could take it back. I wish I could be the woman you deserve." She didn't expect an answer or anything at all, but as she stood there, buried in her grief, she sensed a presence behind her. She turned, her breath caught as she noticed Ridge standing a few feet away, his hands in his pockets and his gaze fixated on her. "I didn't know you'd be here," he continued, his voice gentle but tight. Brooke brushed away tears as her heart raced. "I come here occasionally. To think." He nodded and looked down at the sand. "To remember. I've been thinking a lot too. About us. About what you told me." She braced herself for another outburst of rage, but his expression softened, though the grief was still visible in the lines of his face. "I don't know if I can ever forget what happened," he murmured, barely above a whisper. "But I know I can never stop loving you, Brooke. I have tried. God knows I've tried. But you're in my blood and soul. I don't know how to let you go." Her pulse raced, a glimmer of hope flickering in her chest, but she didn't dare to speak, frightened of upsetting the precious moment. "I'm not saying it's going to be easy," he added, his gaze meeting hers. "I'm not saying I'm fine with what occurred. But I want to try. I want to find a way to forgive you and reestablish what we had." Brooke's emotions were mixed with relief and thankfulness, as she expressed her inability to handle the sorrow of losing you. She took a timid step toward him, and when he did not back away, she reached for his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and familiar, and for the first time in weeks she felt hopeful. "I'll do whatever it takes," she stated, her voice shaking. "I'll spend the rest of my life making things right, Ridge. I swear." He did not say anything, but he also did not release go of her hand. They stood there, the waves smashing around them, the world fading away, leaving only the two of them, broken but not beyond repair. The path ahead would be long, painful and uncertain, but for the first time in weeks, they both felt the smallest hope of recovery. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the world into twilight, Brooke and Ridge clutched each other, clinging to the love that had always been their anchor, even in the darkest of storms.